Dre all day.
Ladies and gentlemen, here we go again. Dre Baldwin, DreAllDay.com. If you didn't know, we are back for the NBA Finals 2020. I know I don't even talk about basketball that much anymore, but people have been asking me, can you do the finals preview or the recap videos after every game like I used to do? I can do that. I ain't going to do that much more on basketball stuff, but I can do that. So we're talking about this year's 2020 NBA Finals. We got LA versus Miami. This would be the media members' dream, because the media members, they get to travel back and forth between the cities during the NBA Finals. So I hear media members talk about this all the time, like on podcasts and stuff. They say when it was like the Cavs against the Spurs, that was like a boring finals for them, not on the court, but off the court, because it ain't that much to do in Cleveland. And San Antonio's not terrible, but I've been to San Antonio. San Antonio ain't New York. San Antonio ain't even Boston. San Antonio's not LA. They ain't even Oakland. When the Warriors are playing, of course, you got Oakland every year, and you had the Cavs a lot of times. But now you got LA and Miami. I mean, if you got to travel from the East Coast to the West Coast, you could do a lot worse than LA and Miami. This would be the perfect traveling series for the media. However, we know what we got this year. Everybody's in a bubble. Everybody's playing in Orlando. It feels kind of anticlimactic to me. I don't know if y'all feel that way, and I live in Miami. It would be amazing if the finals was here in Miami, and LeBron had to come here to play against the Heat, the team that he won a championship, 2 championships with. Then he left them, kind of unceremoniously. Pat Riley took a couple shots at LeBron when he left Cleveland. When he left Miami for Cleveland, telling he was making a mistake. So it's kind of like Pat Riley against LeBron James, even though Pat Riley ain't playing. And I don't think anybody's still on the Heat from back then. I don't think anybody's still playing for the Heat from when LeBron left, except Udonis Haslem. He doesn't even play. He's not even part of the rotation. Udonis basically a coach. So anyway, I'm glad that we got the series. I wanted to see Miami make it to the finals. I wanted to see the Bucks make it, but after Miami beat them, I didn't want to see Toronto, and I didn't want to see Boston. So first, let's talk about the teams that lost in the Western Conference Finals. Then we'll talk about the matchup that we got here coming up in the finals, which is starting tonight. I'm recording this on Tuesday. I'm putting this video out Wednesday. So if anything happens between now and the start of the game that I didn't talk about, it's because I didn't know about it. So in the Western Conference, you got the Denver Nuggets. Jamal Murray, I think many people said he made a little bit of a leap here in the Western Conference Finals, because he had, in the whole playoffs actually, he had several big games. He had a couple quiet games, and you have a big game, but his overall level, I think, raised. I think everyone can agree his overall level raised up during the NBA playoffs this year. So what I would expect to see, first of all, he did great. Him and Jokic were clearly the top 2 players. Him and Jokic were clearly the top 2 players on that team. What I want to see with I'm about to say Michael Porter Jr., but what I want to see with Jamal Murray is, can he sustain it? Can he play at a higher level for a whole season? Can he average 25 points a game for an 82-game season? Now, he had great playoff games, but can you do that all season long, night in and night out, even in games that you might not be that excited for? Nobody really gives a damn because you're playing against some trashy team. It might be 4 games in 5 nights. You're being game planned for every night. Can you play at that level every single day? When you talk about being the best player or being a certain level of player, it's not what you do in the big games, it's what you do every game consistently. So I want to see if Jamal Murray can take this level that he allegedly has raised his game to in the playoffs. Can he do it over the course of an entire season? Because like I tell people all the time, we talk discipline and professionalism. Being great is not about what you do when all the pressure's on and everybody's watching and there's a big moment. Everybody shows up for the big moments. What are you doing in the moments, the mundane moments, when nobody really cares, nobody's really paying attention? Do you show up and dominate those games? Now, one thing that people talked about, like a guy like Michael Jordan, is that it would be the games where the Bulls will play against some trashy team and nobody cared whether the Bulls won or lost. It didn't really determine whether they would win the championship or anything like that. It was a big game maybe for the trashy team, because this is the only time they get to play a game that mattered all year, and Jordan would go out and dominate those games. Those are the games that made him great, that his teammates would say. The nights that made him great was not the big games and the championships, but what he did in the games that didn't seemingly quote-unquote didn't matter. So can Jamal Murray do that next season? Jokic, we already knew Jokic was great, and he's another guy. Can he be dominant for an entire season all the way through? Denver, given the way that they finished this year, I'm expecting them to be a top 2 seed next year's playoffs. Can they do that with a consistent performance from both of those stars? Michael Porter Jr. on Denver, I tweeted about this. He's a hell of a talent. He obviously can put the ball in the basket. They say he has some shortcomings defensively. I don't think Denver is going to be the right team for him long term because Jamal Murray and Jokic are both ball handlers, and Michael Porter looks like a guy who you could give him the ball and kind of give him some room. So if he was on a trashy team right now, he'd probably be averaging 20 points per game. But on Denver, he doesn't get a chance to do that because he's like at best the third fiddle on that team. He doesn't even start. I'm not sure he's going to end up as the guy on that team. I don't think he's going to end up on that team in the future. They might end up trading him. What Denver needs is like a shooter type guy. If they were to get rid of Porter, not get rid of him, but let's say exchange Porter for a shooter type of player, a CJ McCollum type guy, or a Bradley Beal type guy. Now, I'm not saying that Michael Porter Jr. is equal to either of those guys in a straight up trade right now. Probably not. Actually, definitely not. But that's the kind of player that Denver needs. A great outside sniper who has overall game but can really hit from the outside so that Jokic and Murray can play off of, or he can play off of Jokic and Murray. Michael Porter's a guy who kind of needs the ball. He's not the perfect fit with that team. So he's a hell of a talent, but I don't think he's the guy that's going to stay there long term. He needs his space. Anyway, what else I got to say about Denver? I ain't got to say nothing else about Denver. Let's talk about the Boston Celtics, who lost 4 games to, 4-2 against the Miami Heat. Now, every game in that series was actually pretty competitive. This was actually a good series. It was a good matchup between these two teams. They were kind of evenly matched, but this is how it goes in the playoffs, is who ends up making the better decisions. They say in sports that if it's like a 10-point game or more, that means as a players, you put it on the players, and if it's 10 points or less, you put it on the coaches. And in the playoffs, I don't even know what the deficit was for each game, but this was it was a chess match between Brad Stevens and Eric Spoelstra, and I think we can say Eric Spoelstra won the chess match. And the Heat players also performed too. I'm not taking it away from the players on either side, the winners or the losers. Jimmy Butler showed his chops. He's not like a big time scorer, just give me the ball, score 30 points every game. That's not the type of player he is, but he's a hell of a leader. He's a tough player, mentally tough, physically tough, and I think we could say he's the leader on the Miami Heat, even though he's not like no alpha dog, score all the points type of guy that you normally expect from a quote unquote number one guy. And as I tweeted I've tweeted this many times actually since the Miami Heat had been playing well, is that the Sixers, my hometown team, the Philadelphia 76ers, let Jimmy Butler walk as a free agent so that they could give $289 million to Tobias Harris and Al Horford combined. Why did they do that? I don't know. Why they haven't fired the GM who gave them the money? I don't know. But that's what the Sixers did. But anyway, we ain't got to talk about the losing Sixers until next season. So the Boston Celtics, anyway, is what we're supposed to be talking about. Jason Tatum, I think once he starts to drive to the hole a little bit more, I think he kind of gets into that Kobe mode where he wants to shoot the pretty fadeaways and the mid-range pull-ups. Those shots are beautiful when they go in, but when you're missing, they don't look too good. And people are like, what the hell are you doing? And Tatum, being that he's 6'8", 6'9", long, he's athletic, he can finish above the rim. I think sometimes he just doesn't want to deal with that contact as much as he wants to do his pretty outside shots. So once Tatum gets more of a thirst for going to the basket and taking that contact, initiating the contact, going to the free throw line, I think he can be an even bigger scorer. I think this year he averaged maybe 24, 25. Jason Tatum can be a 30-point per game scorer if he's willing to attack the rim a little bit more. Jaylen Brown as the kind of second fiddle guy to Tatum, they work together. I mean, there's a good match between the two of them. The great thing about both of them is that they can fill those wing spots, that 2, 3, 4 position, small ball 4. They both got pretty strong bodies. They're both athletic. They can both finish above the rim. They can both shoot. They can both handle the ball. And they both seem to be okay with each other's presence. It's not like they're competing against each other for stats or nothing like that. So that's a good core, those two guys to keep together. And then you got a guy like Kemba, who proved to be a good chemistry guy with the Celtics. You didn't hear about any problems with him, being that he was replacing a guy where there was always something going on in Kyrie Irving. Not that he's necessarily better than Kyrie, but for that team, he was definitely, for this season, I think we can all agree, a better match. And of course, Marcus Smart, who people are like, he's going to be a lifetime Celtic just because of his grit and the way that he plays. Now, sometimes he gets a little bit ambitious offensively, but I like Marcus Smart. I just like Marcus Smart as a player. He's the kind of player I would want on my team if I was playing in the game. Now, that's enough. We need to talk about the people that lost. Let's talk about the NBA Finals. Now, one thing I said about the LA Lakers on one side of things was that we didn't want to see too much Dwight or JaVale in the conference finals. And the reason was because I didn't think Dwight or JaVale is even very good or should even be playing, period, no matter who they're playing against. And some people said, well, Dwight and JaVale only didn't play against Houston because it's small ball and this and that. I don't think it was really that. I think it was just a matter of I don't think they're any good. But Dwight got some chance. He got a chance. JaVale was the starter. Dwight ended up taking the starting spot from JaVale by the 4th game of the series. And the last game of the series, game 5, Dwight played like 35 minutes. I don't know if Dwight was even prepared to play 35 minutes, but he did. And he's done well. Like, he's a scrappy, no role player now. All he does is throw his body around, make a couple of layups or dunks. Basically mess with the other team's big guy, which was Jokic, who's a star guy. I don't know how he's going to do against Bam Adebayo, or if he's even going to be playing that much against Bam. I think he's going to get the first shot. I don't think we're going to see too much of JaVale in this series unless Dwight fails and or Anthony Davis can't do anything with Bam. I don't see either one of those happening. As far as, so that's all I got to say about the bigs. As far as LeBron James goes, I mean, he's LeBron James. The Heat have, they got Bam who can guard him some in the pinch. They got Jimmy Butler. They have Andre Iguodala off the bench, and they got Jay Crowder. So the Heat have some wings that they can throw at LeBron. I don't think any of those guys is better than LeBron or can quote-unquote stop LeBron, but they got some bodies they can throw at him. I think they got better bodies to throw him than Denver had. So I think they'll have a better chance of, at least putting some friction into LeBron's game. Anthony Davis is Anthony Davis. I'm interested to see the matchup between him and Bam. I think Anthony's a little bit taller than Bam. He's maybe a little bit more athletic. I definitely think he's taller and longer than Bam, and Anthony Davis is going to get his bucket. So I want to see that matchup. I think it's going to be one of the marquee matchups in the series. Also, Jimmy against LeBron. That's going to be a marquee matchup. And the other thing I said about the Lakers, like, who on the Lakers roster and their rotation will be playing after LeBron and AD? After LeBron and AD, I'm not sure anybody else on the Lakers rotation would actually play for the Miami Heat. Not that everybody on the Heat is better than, in the Heat rotation that is, not just the roster, but not that they're better than the people on the Lakers. Would Dwight play for the Heat? Looking at the type of players that the Heat have, all their players are interchangeable in positions. All of them can guard multiple positions. Even their bigs can shoot from the outside. Bam can shoot the mid-range. Kelly Olynyk can shoot the 3-ball. Those are only 2 bigs that they play. Then they bring in Iguodala off the bench, Tyler Hero off the bench. They got a 7-man rotation. Kelly Olynyk's the emergency 8th man. That's the whole rotation. So you got the starting 5, Dragic, Duncan Robinson, Jay Crowder, Jimmy Butler, and Bam. Then you got Hero off the bench, you got Iggy off the bench, and Olynyk is the emergency 8th man. And maybe you'll see a Solomon Hill if there's a super duper emergency, and maybe some Kendrick Nunn. But the rest of those guys don't even play. Lakers rotation, I'm not sure any of those guys would even be in the Heat's rotation outside of LeBron and AD. Maybe Caruso, because he can play multiple positions. He can handle the ball. He's athletic. He can defend. Maybe the Morris twin. Maybe I don't even think Dwight or JaVale, simply because those guys can't shoot from the outside and they can't really guard in space the way a guy like Bam can. So anyway, it doesn't even matter. I mean, the Lakers have made it this far. It shows you how a good 1-2 punch really carry a team far as the Lakers have, because I don't think any of those other guys will really be in a rotation. For most of the teams who won a round in the playoffs this year, most of the Lakers 3 through whatever will not be playing for damn near any other team in the playoffs this year. But anyway, all that being said, if y'all don't know how I like to do with these finals predictions, I always like to pick the underdog-ish team. So every year that the Cavs played against the Warriors in the finals, I picked the Cavs every single time. I was right once in 2016. So this year I am picking the Miami Heat. Is my hometown team. I'm picking the Heat to win this series in I gotta say 7. Now, I wanted the Heat to win it in 6, but I'm going to say 7. That the Miami Heat will win Game 7. Again, it would be amazing if Game 7 was in. I guess that would be in LA. The LA has a better record than Miami. But I would love if this series was actually in LA and in Miami. It'd be much more exciting, much more climactic than it is right now. But anyway, it's still the NBA Finals. I'm still going to watch. I will do a post-game review after every game of the Finals. I'll put the video up probably that night or the next morning after each game that happens and give you my review of what I saw. But I'm going to pick the Miami Heat to win this series in 6. I am going to pick Jimmy Butler to be the MVP of the finals, given that the Heat win. Now, if the Heat don't win, he ain't going to be MVP. But I'm picking the Heat to win. I'm picking Jimmy Butler to be the MVP. I'm going to take Miami. Did I say 6? 7. I'm going to say Miami in 7 is what I really think. Now, if I was betting money on it, would I bet on Miami? Yes, because they're the underdog, and there's much more money to win by betting on the underdog than it is to bet on the favorite. So that's what I'm going with. That's my pick. Y'all tell me what y'all think. Y'all tell me why. And let's get to it. I'll be doing the review after every game of this finals. I'll post it. Same places you're watching this, I'll post it there. That's that. Everybody, let's enjoy the NBA Finals. Work on your game. Dre all day.